Good evening, everyone. Hope I'm audible enough to you. Welcome to the Information Systems Auditing and Control course unit. As you know, until we start the lectures physically, we'll be conducting lectures in this format. So if I explain you the session plan of this course, most of the course content will be covered by two visiting lecturers from the industry. And also, Professor Lasit Gunawardana will be conducting a few sessions of this course. To introduce the visiting lecturers of the course, we have Mr. Lakmal Ambuldenia, who is the current president of the ISACA Sri Lanka chapter. He also a certified information systems auditor, and he currently works as the vice president of Global Professional Services at Tech1 Global Limited. Also, we have Mr. Asanka Suravira, who will be joining us in later sessions. Mr. Suravira is a certified information systems auditor, who is also certified in risk and information systems control. You can find all the necessary information relevant to the course, including course structure, assessment procedures, recommended reading, and so on, in the course outline, which is already available on the course page. If you have any doubts about the course, you can contact me or any lecturer of this panel. All right, so without taking much time, I would like to invite Mr. Ambuldenia to commence the session. Over to you, Mr. Ambuldenia.
Thank you, Professor. Hope you all can hear me.
Yes, Mr. Ambuldenia, we can hear you.
Okay, right. I'm going to share my screen first. All of these students are from third year, second semester, I believe. Can you raise your hands? I mean, just indicate that if you are from third year, second semester. Okay, there are a few who have not raised their hands. Are they not from your batch or? Okay, cool, right. First of all, you have to apologize me. So basically, this would not be the right day to start a new class because I'm more of having a little bit of difficulty in my. I'm having kind of influenza today. But anyway, so since that's the first day, I didn't want to miss it. So I just wanted to kind of continue and just bear with me because I usually don't use Zoom. So I'm just trying to figure out how to share the respective screen with you all. Give me a second. Okay. Right. Just raise your hands if you can see anything in the screen. Let me rephrase the question. If you can't see anything in the screen. Okay, I can see a couple of them raising hands. Okay, right. So that's a blank slide. Okay, no, not. So of course. So let me start this lecture. So basically, I just wanted to kind of give you a picture of what you are getting into and why you should kind of getting into this kind of module, because when it comes to myself, so actually I did this particular module, or basically this, but one of the when I was doing my undergraduates in our final year, there was elective which had almost similar names, information systems audit and control, uh, control. That was the module name. So I was little curious about, okay, what was it, and because of that I took the course, and ultimately kind of it kind of drove me to kind of become a certified information systems auditor uh, at a later day. Basically, I did my CISA exams, certified information systems audit exams, along with the knowledge that I gathered through the module. Those days it was taught by two very prominent personnel of the industry, and same time, okay, within about another 3 to 4 years, actually, I managed to become an information systems auditor. I'm not a IAS auditor at the moment, but there are a lot of people who work along with me in the same area and who are doing fantastic, very interesting work. Okay, so what does it mean to be a information systems auditor? So that's where I just wanted to kind of start this discussion. Can you raise your hand if you know anything about auditing? I'm not talking about information systems auditing, but if you know anything about auditing, can you raise your hands? No? Okay, right. Okay, so then you will have to understand the auditing component as well, I believe. So first of all, I will take you to a very interesting kind of a diagram which has some information. Okay, so this is a diagram which is kind of uh, I just copied from very recent report which was done by Australian government. This is their information systems audit report findings of their state government. I mean, even organizations like governments does these information systems audits. What I wanted to kind of showcase is that, okay, it's not about technology. It's not about you knowing how to manage a computer or how to handle an operating system or how to do coding or so on and so forth. So it's about a lot of things. So in this particular audit, which was conducted in 2021 and 22, which the report was released in mid last year, they have identified uh, 566 findings. Okay, so what are these findings? They call it audit findings. So what are these findings? It's more of things that they observe, things that they have seen which is not aligned with what they were supposed to be. So things like that. So out of that, they have find out majority of that is related to access management. And another percentage is about his human resource security. At the same time, another huge portion is about endpoint security, and at the same time, similar amount on the information security framework. So likewise, there are a lot of things that they have found out. So this is more of they have identified many things. They observed a lot of things which is related to different areas. At the same time, you can see there are network security, there are physical security findings, there are change management findings, there are IT operations findings, and at the same time, there are business continuity related findings and risk management related findings, and so on and so forth. So in the towards right hand corner, you can see they have kind of divided or categorized these 566 findings into 3 different areas. So there are minor findings, there are moderate findings, and there are significant findings. So of course, the final outcome when you learn this kind of subjects, and if you're interested, if you become an auditor or maybe a part of the auditing team, and when you being given a task, the final outcome uh, would be kind of very briefly summarized in this particular slide. So you can see, so it's about a lot of things. It's about not only technology, but there are a lot of other things involved. At the same time, they have categorized into 3 different areas: minor, moderate, and significant. So this is what, of course, if you are an auditor, this is what you are expecting from an auditor. I mean, basically, what we as a management expect from an auditor. So they have to kind of identify certain scope, and they go ahead and kind of do some observations, and they report it back. So this is what it is. So if I'm to take you to the next slide, so what are the types of audit tests? So how you are going to get these findings? How would you identify these things? And what make you to categorize them as minor, moderate, or high? So this again, there are many types of audit tests that you have to do, and you can see if you look at uh, there are inquiries. So what do you mean by inquiry? Inquiry is the auditor ask about the controls in place. So you basically sometimes when if you have any experience with doing an internship or so, even at your university, somebody may come and kind of sit with you and may ask certain things. Okay, how does this work? They might be I mean, they might show you a curiosity, and kind of they might tell you, okay, this is, I mean, how is this work? Okay, what other things that they can do to kind of improve this? And are they really saying what they are doing, or are they really acting according to what the process is? So this would be one thing. So particularly if you are to kind of if you also to kind of understand, okay, what's how to get into the next level, or how to contact a lecturer, or maybe how what would be the mechanism to enroll into a particular subject. And I mean, just imagine somebody would come to you and ask such questions. Okay, how can I get into this subject? Okay, how many students are allowed? Okay, how many students are there at the currently? Okay, do you have a course structure in place? Have you already identified uh, intermediary learning objectives? Okay, do you have those? Do you have any reference books, and so on and so forth? They might ask a lot of questions. Then you have to be really careful as well. So, okay, when you're answering, it might kind of impact somebody else's. If you don't know, better say no. But one of the key areas, or one of the types of audit tests is inquiry. So it's a matter of talking to someone, understand what are the controls in place. And number 2 is observation. So you can sit and kind of observe the activities and operations uh, which is currently going on. You don't even have to talk to someone. So you basically you go sit there, you just particularly looking into how things work. Okay, when people come into the premises, whether they are wearing the respective tag, are they scanning themselves, or maybe would they put the fingerprints, and do they have access to the unnecessary areas? Would they take their bottle or the food to their desk? Or very simple things. Okay, they may observe these things, these activities and operations, and kind of note things down. And then the third one is about inspection, reviewing evidence to validate a control in operating. Validate a control is operating. So they might simply try to uh, wave some one of their what do you call that, name tags into the scanner, and see whether it's working, or whether the door is opening. And they might kind of try to log into a computer, or maybe they might try to see whether the data center or if the premises are secured accordingly, whether there is secure CCTV cameras and so on and so forth. They might inspect. They will see whether they can capture evidence. They will go to the security person and say, okay, I need this capture from the CCTV camera, which is from yesterday, and so on and so forth. So it's the third part is about inspecting, and then a reperformance, manual reperformance or recalculating a control. So what do you mean by reperformance? It is more of like, okay, they will try to uh, do the same thing again and again and see whether it works. And they might follow you and see whether, okay, whether the way that it worked for you would work for him as well or her as well. So likewise. And finally, in the fifth one, it's basically computer assisted auditing tools. There are tools as well. So you have to identify these are examples of types of tests that you can perform. So you have to identify whether you are going to inquire, observe, inspect, reperform, or use a auditing tool in your audit. So I'm yet to come to the subject. I'm still trying to showcase uh, whether this is a subject for you or whether it is not, because I'm sure, okay, because I'm talking to a set of students from management faculty and so on and so forth. So I'm trying to kind of clear it out. So it's not about technology. It's not about knowing technology. You can sit there and wait and see, observe and kind of report. Or maybe you can ask someone and kind of report. Or maybe you can inspect. For that, you might require some assistance. When it comes to inspection, you might need access. You might need to know how to kind of get certain things out of a system, so and so. But it doesn't mean that you have to do it. You can ask for it. Okay. So let me go to the next slide. So what is expected from an IS auditor? Yes, technical knowledge. It's not that you require extensive technical knowledge about all the systems in the world to become an IS auditor, but a little understanding of about how things work and what hardware, what are the software, what does it mean by network, databases, and more of how to do industry standard audits, risk assessment methodologies, and at the same time, some regulatory compliance related things, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, this also include technical, right? It's not about just information technology technical. So it's more of combination of it. And then it's very important to have analytical skills. Why do you really need analytical skills? So particularly, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you have to have a strong analytical skills to evaluate complex systems. Complex systems does not say that, okay, you have to I mean, it's not only computer system, it's not only application, it's not only software system, it's not only hardware systems, and so on and so forth. If you take an office, okay, the human resource and how they operate, it's also a system. And certain processes, procedures in place, okay, that is also a system. So basically, you have to identify potential risks and vulnerabilities which is aligned or which is happening around all of these systems. And the third one is very important. As far as I'm concerned, the most important skills that is required by a IS auditor is communication skills. Why? Remember, I showed you in the previous one, inquiry. Inquiry is one of the audit test types. And inspection is again another audit test type. So if you are to inquire, you should know how to communicate. You should know how to talk to someone, and you should know how I can get certain things from different people, and so on. So because the same mode of communication might not work with the janitor, which might work with the CEO of the company. At the same time, if you are to talk to middle layer, so I mean, you have to use different mechanisms of communication. And then the inspection. So how does communication skills impact the inspection? So basically, it's about asking and trying to get something out of it, right? So basically, when it comes to today's world, most of the people is very reluctant to share things. Uh, Unless otherwise you are authorized to do so. And the same time, I mean, even though you are authorized to get that information, you will not be able to get it unless you negotiate with that particular person and kind of try to get that information. So that's very important. So you have to make sure you have some good level of communication skills. And then the problem solving skills. So system auditors should have a strong problem solving skills to identify the root causes of issues and propose effective solutions. So what does it mean? So basically, you might encounter an example where uh, somebody would come and say, okay, my uh, name tag is not working with the scan, or maybe my fingerprint is not working. This is regular situation, and so they might kind of again accuse certain people of doing something. So in such cases, you might have to kind of look into areas where, okay, which and what would have been connected to this, and kind of think creatively and kind of give solutions onto these areas. And the same time, so basically, if you are blocked by a particular scenario, just imagine when you try to inspect a CCTV footage and you were not allowed to get that information from the respective person. So you have to identify alternative approaches to address that kind of situation. So it's very important to have problem solving skills also. And then the interpersonal skills. So once again, I was talking about it when it comes to the communication skills as well. So you have to make sure you are kind of equipped to this kind of have communications, have relationships, an effective communication mechanism with all levels of stakeholders. It doesn't matter whether it's the janitor or maybe the cleaning person or maybe the PN also and so forth. And at the same time, you might have to talk to the CEO, managing director, board of directors, and so on and so forth. So you have to have kind of good interpersonal skills to become a good IS auditor. Because as I indicated before, you have to talk their language to get things done. You have to talk to them to identify or inquire things. You have to talk to them to kind of investigate things, and you have to talk to them to kind of see whether you can get certain things done from them. That's how it works. And also, it's important to have professional certifications because if you have something, you would do right by it. And finally, continued learning, because uh, today's world basically evolves very fast, right? So what the technology we have today may not be the same next day, right? So I mean, I think the best example recently was the generative AI. So it was they have started working on generative AI about a couple of decades ago, but at once, about 2, 3 years back, this generative AI came into the picture, and now everybody is using it. And even nowadays, auditors are using it to generate reports and so on and so forth. And uh, so, if you have not adopted these skills, and if you have not identified these things, learned about these things during your career, you will not be updated to kind of getting into it. So I was very recently, about a couple of months back, I was talking to a delegation from Institute of Internal Auditors. Their question was, okay, is it okay for them to use Copilot or ChatGPT? So my answer, what do you think? What would have been my answer? Uh, Anyone would like to say whether I said yes? Raise your hands if you think that, okay, I said yes. Question was, um, is it okay to use Copilot or ChatGPT or in a matter of fact any auditing or basically generative AI tool? What do you think? Should they use it or should not? Just raise your hands if you think that think that they should use it. Okay, good. Okay, right. So okay, I can see. Okay, good amount of people are saying yes. Okay, right. So good. So anyone think I said no? Anybody thinks that I said no? Nobody. Okay, right. I couldn't give an answer actually because it's all about how the organization operates. Because if it is generative AI, if they're asking about ChatGPT, Copilot, or maybe different other generative AI engines, um, it's a very open, broad question. Why is that? Because different organizations have their own uh, policies and they have their own risk appetite. They have their regulations. They have their own ways of operation and so on and so forth. So if we are to understand whether you are allowed to use generative AI, it's matter of understanding the organization, its scope, their regulatories, and what is the organizational policy about generative AI, and any other what do you call any other things that they should know about it, and at the same time, what are the limitations, or maybe what are the boundaries that they follow. So that's particularly, I mean, that's where I was talking about the IS audit is about identifying, first of all, what they're supposed to do and observe things which they are not doing right, or maybe which they might have been miss or maybe uh, kind of uh, uh, deviating from the expectations of the company. So that's why I was saying, so continued learning is also very important. So next slide, okay. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about CISA after this. Basically, today I am talking about it is kind of just to give you a glimpse of what we are getting into. So myself, Asanka, and Asanka is basically an accredited trainer for CISA as well. So that's why we brought him in for this particular module, so that whatever the deliveries that we do, the way that we deliver to the respective CISA class mates, basically any other students, we are trying to kind of follow the similar process here. And I believe most of you may have already known what Certified Information Systems Auditor is. Can you raise your hands if you know what Certified Information Systems Auditor is, and uh, if you have any idea about CISA? No one? Okay, good. So I'm not going to talk about it. So basically, you can simply go search in Google and find out about CISA. Uh, CISA was created in 1978. It's almost 50 years back. At the same time, currently we have 151,000 CISA credential holders. Out of that, in Sri Lanka, we have 109. Since I'm the president, I have some data. We have only 109 in the country. But if you look at, okay, the demand for CISA in the country, it's more of like basically sum of number of banks plus number of financial sector organizations plus public listed companies multiplied by 3. Or that's more of like we have about 32 banks, 28 financial sector companies, there's about 60, and about 200 public listed companies, about 260, and multiply that by 3, that's about 720 people are required, right? So but we have only 190 in the country. So there is a huge requirement. So that's why we thought, okay, we would cover a substantial part of CISA during this program. So if anyone is interested, you can simply kind of go through it and kind of do your exam as I did it about almost about 15 years back. So I did my CISA in 2009. It's interesting. You will see that when you learn about the content, you will see that you are learning a lot of things, because I showed you previously. It's about a lot of things. It's about IT operations. It's about change management, physical security, network security, endpoint, access management, human resource, information security frameworks, risk management, business continuity, everything. At the same time, you are not supposed to, not wrong word actually. You doesn't need to have a lot of technical knowledge to become a certified information systems audit as well, because the audit test types include inquiry, observation, inspection as well, because that's where most of the people get most of the findings identified during their audits. Okay, and the third part, why we don't have much of CISAs in the country, I will give you a little bit of hint on that. If you look at the ISACA Sri Lanka as a member body, there are maybe nearly 500 to 600 CISA, or maybe other certification holders as well, have migrated during last 10-15 years. So we are more of like a kind of grooming place for CISAs. So we create people and we kind of export them. So if you look at certain very important organizations in Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, so we can find a lot of CISAs who have born and kind of groomed in Sri Lanka. So you can be one of them as well. Okay. So I believe you got a little bit of understanding what you can expect, and how you can become a information systems auditor. Right. So, what does information system audit looks like? So that's what I'm going to talk about in next couple of slides. So, before I go to that, I believe you can ask questions. So if there's anything, you can put it to the chat. So I have a couple of screens, so I can see if there's any chats. Or else, if you want to kind of unmute yourself and ask questions, okay, I'm very open for that. Ideally, I prefer to have in-person lectures, because then we can have a lot of interactions and so on and so forth. Because these CISA programs are more of developed in a way you have to have more interactions and discussions, so that you understand things beyond the content of the slides. Okay, so audits, what and why? So when it comes to audits, okay, I'll give you 2 minutes. Just read through this and then we'll come to the discussion. Just raise your hands if you're done reading. Okay. can you type in the chat what have you understood through these four things about audit? So these are four things about what is an audit and why is audit is required and how it helps. So would you like to kind of uh, give us a quick summary about okay how it works and what you have you understood out of it? At least if you have already completed reading this, just raise your hands. Okay, we have one, two, three. Okay, four and five would have been a good number. Okay, yes, great. Right. So of course, so why audits and what is audits about? So you can see audits about assurance. Audit is about ensuring people, or it's about assurance given for the stakeholders. And again, it's about focus. So simply, if you take the keywords out of these four, simply you can see audit is about ensuring effective operations. It's about assurance given to different levels of stakeholders and assurance gained about certain things and focus on the information and related systems. So it's about ensuring assurance and focus. So just have that three words in your mind when you go through this program. So because whatever you do, whatever the outcome which comes out of this audit operations or audit projects or whatever, what you are trying to do is to make sure you assure you ensure a particular organization or department or a team or maybe a respective organization, authority, government entity, whatever, or even a person or maybe a particular system. So making sure you ensure that this particular scope of your audit or the people or the systems that included in this particular project or your uh, activity that perform things correctly. At the same time, you try to kind of gain a confidence or assurance that things are in place accordingly. At the same time, you're taking that assurance into the rest of the stakeholders and tell them that these people whom you are trusting are doing right things. Very good example. Okay, just forget about all the information systems audits. What is the key requirement for any company annually? That is the annual audit, right? So they have to showcase what are the profits that gain, what are the expenses, okay, what you have spent on what, and so particularly you have to showcase their profit and loss, and the same time their assets, liabilities, and everything, right? So that is being done by a financial auditor. And the same time, when it comes to information systems auditor, you have to do a similar task. Okay, let's go to the next slide. IS audits. So if you are to define IS audits or information system audit is the formal examination and testing of information systems to determine. Remember these words. It's a formal examination or testing of information systems to determine a lot of things. So what are those things? Whether these systems comply with applicable laws, regulations, contracts, and or industry guidelines, whether these systems and related processes comply with the governance criteria and and relevant policies and the procedures, and whether they are meeting the requirements of the CIA, which is called confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Nowadays, there are a lot of other keywords like the uh, we kind of add different other characters into CIA triads. So we call it CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So one of the key duties is to make sure these systems or people are appropriately following the respective controls, they follow procedures, they follow policies to make sure the respective things which are which in scope, they maintain the confidential integrity and availability. And finally, IS operations are being accomplished efficiently and effectiveness targets are being met. So there's something called performance auditing. So that is also part of where we will talk about this performance auditing throughout this course as well. So of course, there is a part whether these systems or policies, procedures in place, whether they are efficient and also whether they are effective. So IS audits is about doing all of these things. Okay. So what phases this is includes. So particularly you have to do a lot of planning. As far as I'm concerned, the majority of the work goes into planning. Why? It's because, I mean, just imagine, okay, out of the blue, okay, you being invited to do a information systems audit in an organization. It doesn't matter whether it's a manufacturing, whether it's a service organization, if it's a retail, trade, or maybe a hotel, or so and so forth. Now you're being given task, okay, you have to do auditing for this company or this particular location or this organization. Then there needs to be a lot of planning going into the uh, preparation. There needs to be a lot of preparation because you have to understand what is the scope, what regulations are involved, what other laws are involved, who am I going to contact with. You have to understand the organization structure. You have to understand the personnel whose business is critical. You have to see whether there is a business impact analysis done, and you have to understand which processes, policies, which applications, which hardware, which infrastructure is important, and so on. So there are a lot of reading and a lot of observations to be done during the planning stage as well. So when you are done with the plan, then particularly you have to make sure there is a plan prepared, and on top of that you identify what kind of experts do I need. Remember, we were talking about at the very beginning, you can investigate. So I mean, in the very first second slide, we talks about inspection. So if you are to review evidence to validate a control of an operation, so of course then again you will require certain experts. If you are to kind of identify what are the vulnerabilities in a active directory or directory control, or basically nowadays there are different cloud and on-prem solutions and so on and so forth. But if we are to identify vulnerabilities in a uh, credential manager or email system or a database and so on and so forth. So am I going to kind of gain that knowledge before the audit, and am I going to perform the activity? No. You have to identify whom I should talk to, whom I should include in my team when I go for field work. So that's very important. That is why it's important to understand the organization, understand the scope, understand the regulations, laws, standards, and all of these things. And on top of that, you gather a team, you gather a personnel, you identify whom to be discussed with, whom to talk to, and from whom I can get certain information. So all of these things are part of the plan. And field work. of course, if you are not planning any of these things, and you go to the field and you are trying to kind of talk to each one. Talking is also, I mean, basically, have this in the previous slide we talk about inquiring is also a mechanism, right? Inquiring is also a part of what it is. Am I going to inquire about everything from everyone? No, right? So you have to identify, okay, from whom I'm going to inquire, what am I going to observe, what am I going to inspect, and what kind of activities I'm going to perform manually and do a little bit of calculations on, and which areas I'm going to use the software to analyze these things. So planning is very important. So it's all about how you understand the context. And then the fieldwork and documentation. And finally, this is the most important part of the audit uh, after planning. So fieldwork, okay, I'm not saying that it's not important, but you can kind of go through it. But I remember I was talking about ensuring, I was talking about assurance, I was talking about focus, right? So ultimate outcome of an audit is a report, irrespective of what activities that you perform, how many people have involved, whether you have spent weeks, months, or years, still the final outcome is a report, right? So that report is basically needs to be in different contexts. You have to make sure this report, there is a version of the report which goes to the board of directors or the senior management. There needs to be a set of reports in the same during the same process I'm talking about. So basically, there needs to be a certain set of reports or certain documentation needs to go into the operational level people. At the same time, if there is any other stakeholders who are not part of the organization, maybe a third party suppliers, third parties, or maybe government, or maybe other interested parties, there are different stakeholders, right? So different versions of reporting has to be provided. At the same time, the information which goes into these reports are also need to be thoroughly looked into. Why? Because there are certain personnel who are not supposed to see or be given certain confidential information. Remember, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So there are certain confidential information which should not be publicized. Those information might not should not go to public domain. Those information should not include in a report which goes to the maybe share market or maybe stock option holders, so and so forth. So what is important? Planning is important, and it is where the most of the time will be required. And if you do the planning right, then the fieldwork documentation won't be a much of a challenge. And ultimately, you have to focus a lot on the reporting. So this is where, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in my experience, a lot of audits fails at the reporting stage. Why? They don't understand what to report to who, right? So sometimes they just do 100-page document and pass it to the board of directors. They don't even understand a thing about what it is and what's inside it. But if you are to kind of uh, give them about 10-page or maybe 3-page, 4-page document to the board of directors and indicate, okay, these are the observations, these are the things that you must focus on, these are the recommendations, these are the risks, and so on and so forth. If there's a short document, maybe 1 page, maybe 3-4 pages, maximum less than 12, 16 pages. I mean, if you just take a huge report and about 100, 200 pages and give it to the board of directors, they might not they might not interested in to read those things, right? Because they are also busy people. So most of the audits fails at that point. Why? Most of the time the follow-ups won't happen because people won't understand. what were the recommendations, and what were the action items to be taken place. Okay, what non-compliances are there, so and so forth. So this is more of, I mean, even though it's a straight this thing, so basically this is more of a cycle. So you, as a follow-up, okay, you might plan another audit exercise. So you have to do this in cycles. So that's why even in financial sector, basically any company has to do annual audits. So similarly, IS audits needs to be done, maybe annual or maybe biannual, or it depends on how this organization would identify how often that they have to do the audits. Okay. So I believe you have got an idea what is a information systems audit and what is expected from information systems auditor. Uh, can you show of hands? Okay, raise your hands if you don't have any questions at this particular moment. Okay, sorry. So I've been talking to, I've been talking, someone has muted me. Okay, sorry. So what we are going to, what we are trying to do here is basically every lecture we are going to conduct in a way that we get these activities done. So suddenly something came to my mind. I kind of, I will push you a question. This is a very, I mean, something that I got wrong some time back. Why I wanted to kind of get these quizzes done is basically when it comes to any information systems audit, security, internal audit, any questions, any examinations, all of these things are MCQ based. So if you are uh, having right understanding how to answer these questions, you will be excelling in next couple of weeks. So basically, this particular program is for 12 weeks. So if you master your proficiency of answering questions, most probably as I did in 2009, you should be able to kind of get ready for next CISA as well, or maybe a similar other exam which is having a similar content. So that's why we have thought of including 10 questions to every class before we start it. So I suggest and I believe you can pick the basically we are going to pick best four as best four quiz marks also as a part of your evaluation. So from next week onwards, we are going to give these questions. So you will have 10, 12 quizzes. So you can pick the best quizzes. So you will pass with the high flying colors. And okay, before I go to anything else, so this question that came to my mind, something that I was incorrectly answered some time back. I mean, not the same context, but I will give you a question and I would like all of you to kind of type the answer. So what is the question? Is just imagine, okay, you are uh, having a lecture and your most favorite lecturer is conducting the lecture, and your girlfriend, boyfriend, your best friend, everyone is inside the room. At the same time, you have your belongings, your laptop, your phone, and some other important equipment that you have, and so forth inside the room as well. So my question is that just imagine there is a sudden fire. So if you are there, what would be the first thing that you would pick or grab before you run out of that premises, which is in fire now? So quickly put it into the chat, okay, what you're going to pick. So there are a lot of things: your laptop, your mobile phone, or your notes from all throughout these weeks, and same time, okay, you have your lecturer and your boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend, everyone. So what are you going to pick, or what are you going to grab before you run out of the lecture hall? Just put it into the chat and see, okay, whether you get the right answer. And the same time, just raise your hands if you ever been to a fire drill. So I'm expecting you to answer here in the chat, and at the same time, just raise your hands if you have ever been to a fire drill. I see only two answers here. I think whomever who's answering, you can put it to kind of see to everyone as well, rather than just directly sending it to me. Okay, right. So I have few answers which I got here. So I mean, just think of it. I'm not going to give the answer today. So let's discuss it in the next week with the context. Okay. So what else is going to be included in the lecture? So basically, content as always. So basically, which is related to degree and all of basically the CISA program, all of that. So we are trying to cover as much as possible during this module as well, and something more as well. So and we have identified, it was proposed by your department as well, to kind of do some hands-on computer assisted audit tool testing and so on and so forth. So we are going to do that as well. So it's more of, it will be more hands-on, and at the same time we are going to do a lot of case studies, and at the same time just to do a lot of activities. So you will have to think and kind of answer. So that's why I thought, okay, I mean, it would be best to kind of do these sessions in person so that we can do a lot of talking. So I mean, why I believe I was successful when I did the same similar program in 2009 was, okay, I had a lot of questions. I mean, I wanted to ask the lecturer, okay, what if it doesn't happen this way? Okay, what if this, what if? So I had a lot of what ifs. So almost all the time, okay, they were also kind of more prominent, and they were more prompt, and they were kind of taking us through these steps to understand this subject well. So that's why, okay, I was saying, so this is more of required more talking, more conversations. Remember, I showed that, okay, if you are to become a good information systems auditor, you need to have communication skills and interpersonal skills. So both of them are very important. So communication plus interpersonal. So that's why, okay, I think it's more ideal to kind of do in person, but even during virtual sessions, I'm trying to kind of keep the conversation going. At least some people are responding, so I'm happy about that. But let's see. Okay, right. And then activities, simple exercise, and again, some discussion questions. So we can kind of discuss certain MCQs during the program, during the class as well, and the case studies. So there are a lot of case studies because information systems audit, as you remember, this was introduced in 1970s. So since then, there are a lot of case studies. There are a lot of things that has happened all the throughout the world, and people who have kind of did things wrong, and people learn from doing wrong things. And at the same time, I mean, I think very good example was we in 2004. I don't know whether anyone of you were there, but you may have heard of something called tsunami has come to Sri Lanka. A lot of people died and all of that. So why we couldn't kind of overcome such situation? Because we were not aware, right? So there are a lot of case studies on based on these kind of disasters and so on and so forth, which is available, which kind of failed the systems during those days. So let's see. I'm happy to kind of go through these type of things. So if you have any feedback, anything that needs to be changed, so just indicate to myself or Prabhasara, or maybe your department head, and so on. So let's see, okay, how we can align to best of our capabilities, and kind of see whether we can get can see about 30 plus students here. So let's see, at least we can get 5 6 people certified. That happened in my batch in 2009. So out of about 30, 40, about 5, 6 people got certified. During those days, it was more of a paper-based exam. It was they are only for only once a year. So you have to book for it and kind of wait for it and do it. But now that kind of things are no more, right? So basically, computer-based test and all of that. So anyone who's interested, if you have money, and at the same time, as the president of ISAC, okay, I can guarantee that I will get some exam vouchers as well for high flying students, at least for 2, 3 students, so that you can utilize that those exam vouchers to kind of get through the CISA exam as well. So in general, they are cost about $800. So I mean, whomever who participates in classes, whomever who's active, and whoever who passes the subject well. So I'm guaranteeing that, okay, I will try my best to get at least 3 vouchers for your batch. Okay, so now only I'm coming into the session. So okay, since we are being also talking for a while, so shall we take a quick break? Now it's 6:20, 6:17. So shall we meet up at 6:45 and take a quick break and come back, since we are going to start the session for today? Any raise of hands if you are agreeing? Okay, so let's meet up at 6:45. Thank you very much for listening. Okay, if there's anything, okay, I'll be here. So if you have anything, just put your questions into chat, and I'm happy to answer. Thank you. Just join. Shall we do a quick, what do you call, a quick, shall we engage in a quick game? How many of you have seen this before? If you have already seen it, kind of raise your hand. I believe you can see my screen, right? With a blue color uh, background. Anyone has seen this before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, nice. You have played it before? Okay, so what I'm suggesting is let's see, okay, what it is. So whomever who has done it before, okay, you know what to be expected. So this kind of exercise, actually, I'm more of very fond of this kind of exercises, because this kind of allow us to kind of think about us, okay, how we operate, kind of thinking about how things would work and so on and so forth. At the same time, it will kind of give us a little bit of what do you call, out of the box thinking. I mean, it will create that. So anyone who's interested, so basically you can kind of play with me. So I'll start the game. So I believe you know what it needs to be done. So there are certain words appears, and based on the words that appears, you have to identify what it is. Okay, so I mean, just put it into the chat, okay, what you think, okay, this or the category of this particular words belongs to, and so on and so forth. Let's see. If you have not seen, okay, if you already have a LinkedIn account, just go there, and usually on the notifications you have it, or else you can, if you go to I mean, if you are on the mobile, I mean, there is something called games in the menu. You can go to this particular, a very, very interesting and very small game, just only couple of seconds. So there are 5 clues that they are giving to identify what would be the category, common category which these words belongs to. So anyone would like to play with me? So you can just put it into the chat. So okay, your suggestions. So what would be the category? So first word is set. Anyone? Some word you can simply just say set. Okay. Yeah, who it belongs to. in my opinion, I might think, okay, so I would say, let's say up. Okay, so the second clue is given period, set and period. Where would that belong? Any suggestions? Any guesses? Maybe in my case, I would think time. No, it's not. So now you have set, period, frame. Yeah, I can see some people are directly sending me the messages, but I suggest you to kind of put it open. Okay. A suggestion for work. No. Okay. Set, period, frame, quarter. I'm also thinking. Frame, period, set, quarter. I'm also clueless. If you look at my readings, okay, I have very less readings because it's basically very controversial. Okay, how it works. Quarter, say, frame, period, set. Okay, let's say something about boundary. No, let's say set, period, frame, quarter, inning. Maybe something to do with games. Yes, of course. So it's basically sports game divisions. Right. So, I mean, I believe most of you may have already played some games. So, you know, okay, when it comes to badminton, tennis, there are sets, uh, periods. Where does they use periods? So, I can't understand. So, quarter. So, there, I mean, when it comes to games like maybe basketball, netball, you have quarters, innings are there for cricket, and so on and so forth. Let's see, very interesting. So, at least I kind of figured it out with all five clues. So, I mean, I'm suggesting you to kind of go do engage with this kind of small games, and it is also more very interesting, kind of making sure you think further, think more. So this might kind of give you a little bit of clue to become more creative and so and so forth. Okay, so let's go to today's session, which I was looking at doing. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so I was going to cover today a little bit of about information systems audit standards, guidelines, functions, and code of ethics. Most of the things that is part of this content, I have already talked about it uh, while we were discussing, okay, uh, what is it about information systems audit and how what is expected from an information systems auditor. So this is more of like further information about these things. Let's see how it works and what more information are there. Okay, right. So usually, as I indicated previously, so information audit is about mostly about ensuring assurance. So even the standards they have identified or usually is being called information systems audit and assurance standards. So usually the information audits and assurance standards define mandatory requirements for information systems auditing and reporting and inform a variety of audiences of critical information. Remember, I was talking when it comes to phases of information audit, we were talking about three things: planning, fieldwork, and reporting. And while I was talking about the reporting, I said uh, the most important outcome of an audit is reports, and it needs to be created for different levels of people. So that's what it says. Information system auditing and reporting and inform a variety of audiences of critical information. So variety of audiences. So who are these variety of audiences? So it can be categorized into many. So this is not a comprehensive list of audiences. But here, in this particular example, they have put forward information system auditors, maybe a different other auditor who would look into this information. Why information systems auditors? Because, I mean, as I said, so this is more of a cycle, right? So you have to make sure this is going on a cycle. So it's not a one-time thing. So basically, you will have to work on further activities. So as soon as the report is going out, there will be advisors from different parties and different stakeholders to do different things and so on and so forth. So it's very important for this. There is a report which is catered to information systems auditors as well. Why? Because when they go for the next audit, I mean, out of the blue, they may be dragged into the audit, and they been said, okay, there are a lot of other audits has happened some years back or maybe some months back. So simply you can look into those reports and understand what has happened, right? So that's why information system auditors are there in the picture. And management and interested parties. Management is anyway interested. Why? Because they are supposed to be getting some feedback out of these reports, and they are supposed to take some actions, and they are supposed to be given some instructions to different parties. So that's why management is important. And interested parties, as I said, if it is a listed company, there will be a lot of people, shareholders, stockholders, chief information or chief executives, marketing, head of the departments, and so on and so forth, right? And finally, in this particular case, certification holders. So they might look into these standards. So why what kind of standard documents are there? So basically, when it comes to information systems audit and assurance standards, there are multiple levels of documents as well. So these standards, when it comes to these standards, they define mandatory requirements. So there are things that you must do, and guidelines provided. It's basically providing guidance to apply IS audits and assurance standards. And then the tools, standards, guidelines, tools. So these assurance standard documents usually comes with different framework. There were some questions about whether we are covering SLUS and so on and so forth. But those are standards related to financial auditing. And when it comes to information system auditing, there are different other standards. There is ITF, and maybe you can use COBIT, ISO 27000, or maybe IIA standards, so on and so forth. There are enough and more other standards available for information systems audit. So when it comes to those frameworks, there are mandatory requirements, there are guidelines, and there are tools and techniques provided for doing auditing. So that's what we need to understand. So that's what we are going to talk about throughout these 10 12 sessions, and try to understand what's there and what kind of things we are going to look into. Okay, so ISO audit assurance standards. So basically, when it comes to these standards, they are divided into mainly three categories: general, performance, and reporting. So what is general? General provides guiding principles under which the IS assurance professional operates. They apply to conduct of all assignments and deal with information systems auditors, ethics, independence, objectivity, and UKR, as well as knowledge, competency, and skills. So lot of words, right? So simply just see what are the keywords here. So you can see here they apply to conduct all assignments and deal with information system auditors, ethics, independence, objectivity, and due care. See, so more than what we were talking about information systems auditors, Now you see, I mean, auditor needs to have a certain set of good ethics. Auditor needs to make sure they are independent. They have to have provide objectivity, and they must have due care. So on top of that, you must have the knowledge, competency, and skills. So when we plan for these information systems audit, you have to make sure all of these keywords: ethics, independence, objectivity, due care, knowledge, competency, and skills, right? So as I indicated before, it's not about that you are going to understand or you going to be educated about all the technologies in the world. It's not. It's particularly how you are going to conduct this, and what kind of test types, your audit test types, the types you are going to incorporate, and whom you are going to interview, and what kind of reports that you are going to put out. So it all depends on that. And second, the performance. And this is to deal with the conduct of assignment, such as planning and supervision, scoping, risk and materiality, resource mobilization, supervision and assignment management, audit and assurance evidence, and exercising the professional judgment and due care. So once again, when you are planning, because this is an audit, right? So you are going to ensure something, you are going to provide assurance, and you are going to be focused. So if a third party, if someone to kind of believe in your report, they need to understand this person, the auditor who has conducted this, is credible one. So that's why they're talking about planning, supervision, scoping, risk, materiality, resource mobilization, supervision, assignment management, audit and assurance evidence, exercising of professional judgment, and due care, because it's all about the credibility of the person who has done it. I believe, I mean, since you are in similar field, you may have noticed. I mean, in the world there are bigger assurance organizations like KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, maybe, yeah, Ernst and Young, EY, BDO Partners, McKinsey. So there are a lot of people who does this auditing and assurance, right? And have you ever noticed in certain countries they have blocked or kind of terminate the licenses of certain assurance organizations of being conducting audits in their particular country? I think recent incident being there was something in Germany where PwC was blocked, and there was something in India where KPMG was blocked, and so on and so forth. Why this kind of things happens? Because their credibility is being damaged by the people who conducted the audit, right? So they may be having some relations with the auditee, or maybe they are getting some different benefits from auditees, and so on and so forth. So big, and when you get caught of these things, especially when the governments and even other organizations are going to blacklist this kind of organization be conducting audits in their countries as well. So that's why it's very important. The performance is important. And the third one is reporting. Remember, I was talking about the most important part of an audit is reporting. So address the types of reports, means of communication, and the information communicated. So you have to look into types of reports, mean of communication, and information communicated. I told you when we were talking previously, there are certain information which should not go into the public domain, which are confidential, which if you report to the, I mean, which if you don't understand whether this set of information is public worthy, or worthy to share in public domain. If you don't understand that, you would not look into it rightfully, then basically it might not serve the purpose. So of course, look into these things. General performance and reporting. General, it's about okay. It's about auditors, ethics, independence, objectivity, due care, knowledge, competency, and skills. Performance is about how we are dealing with planning, supervision, scoping, risk, materiality, resource mobilization, supervision, and assignment, management, audit assurance, and exercising professional judgment and due care. And finally, types of reports, means of communication, and information communicated. Right. So the next one. So accordingly, when it comes to this IS audit and assurance guidelines, an IS auditor, information systems auditor, should consider the guidelines in determining how to implement audit and assurance standards, use professional judgment in applying the guidelines to specific audits, and thirdly, read the third one clearly. Very important. An information systems auditor should be able to justify and justify any departure from the audit and assurance standards. What does that mean? That means if you sometimes you may have to deviate from the given guidelines because you use your professional judgment and you use due care. Then you realize, okay, it is okay to deviate a little from a particular given guideline. So if you are to do that, simply, or most importantly, you should be able to justify any departure from the audit and assurance standard. So that's where I was always saying, so you have to understand the interpersonal skills and communications very well. So you have to understand the scope of the organization, the type of the organization structure, the business which they are in, and the regulatory, the laws, and standards, processes, policies, everything involved in that particular business. This is not only related to information systems auditors, right? So I have a lot of friends who are financial auditors as well. So I believe okay, when it comes to financial audits, okay, there is a guideline, okay, where first of all they have to identify which set of guidelines belong or related to this particular type of business. So first question, okay, they might come and ask, okay, what do you do? What does business involve? And they try to figure out which area our business is being conducted in, or which are the areas that belongs to our business. And based on that, they have may have different mandatory guidelines. Remember the previous one we're talking about? So there can be the defined mandatory requirements, there are guidelines and tools and techniques. It depends on the type of business as well. So sometimes you may have to deviate from some guidelines, considering that there is a need. Okay, so I was talking about different frameworks. So ITAF is what ISACA uses for IT audits. So particularly, I mean, it established the standards that address auditors' role and responsibility, knowledge and skills, and diligence, conduct and reporting requirements. And the other side, it provides guidance, tools, and techniques on the planning, design, conduct, reporting of IS audits, assurance, and assignments. And the same time defines terms and concepts specific to information system assurance. So these things are involved in IT audit framework. So let's kind of look at a later stage about these things. But I mean, just remember that this is what we are using. So you can read about it. You can do a quick search and kind of identify. I will try and see whether we can share the IT audit framework with y'all in LMS. If possible, I will get it and share as well. Okay. The next important thing, audit charter. Okay. Raise your hands if you know what audit charter is. You can read and share, raise your hand, or maybe okay, you already know, maybe someone who was talking, okay, you being auditing, part of being an audit organization some time back. So do you know what audit charter is about? Anyone? I would expect to raise hands. Okay, okay. I just raised my hand. No? Okay, right. So we were talking about role of the information systems in audit function, right? So basically, audit chart is about how you establish the function of information systems auditor, and audit charter needs to be approved by the board of directors. So what it is, so what is audit charter, how does it looks like, okay, what it is. Before I come to that, I'll take you to the next slide, right? Okay, this is what we call as audit charter. So it's basically, this charter consists of authority and responsibility of audit function. So this is a static document. This is a static document. It won't change. Okay, it will have information about authority and responsibility of the audit function, who has what authority and to which level. Maybe that is what you have to show. It's something like, okay, you have this golden pass to whatever, wherever you want to go. I believe you have seen, okay, if you go to certain places, there are certain buildings where you can't go beyond certain floors, or maybe you can't go into inside different floors, or maybe different areas, and so on and so forth, right? So we just imagine in some similar mechanism, similar scenario, where you being given authority and responsibility to audit a set of different floors, right? So that needs to be go into the audit charter. It should mention, okay, this is the scope of the audit. These are the, okay, you may be you have given access to only to these flows and this function, and you can question these people, and you can ask questions up to this level, and they can reveal, say, when it comes to information, we classify information, right? So we classify highly confidential, confidential, uh, maybe internal, public, and so on and so forth. So basically, the charter may say, okay, you can even inquire about confidential or highly confidential information. So it talks about the authority and the responsibility of the audit function. At the same time, as soon as this information go into this static document, this needs to be approved by the top management, ideally the board of directors. So they take the responsibility, okay, and because finally all the report, the recommendations must come to the board of directors, and they are liable for any mishaps in the organization, right? So that's why it's very important to be approved by the top management. So okay, let's go back to the previous slide, right? So the role of the information systems internal audit function should be established by an audit charter approved by the board of directors and the audit committee. Okay, it includes one more thing, board of directors and the audit committee. And second, professionals should have a clear mandate to perform the information systems audit function, which may be indicated in the audit charter. What does this mean? I mean, I believe, okay, if you have been a part of audit organization, one of the your one of your colleagues, okay, you can talk to her and see, okay, when she goes to a particular organization to do an audit, or maybe she get the access parts and all of these things, and when she go around and when you go and ask certain questions, you may be kind of looked down and say, okay, who are you to ask me that question? You don't have authority. Who are you? You are an external party. You might end up in that, even though you have the best communication skills and you have the enormous interpersonal skills, still you've been looked down upon, and you will be said, okay, no, you are not allowed to look into my information. You are not allowed to look into this. Okay, then what do you have to wave on to her? So basically, the audit charter must include the authority and approval of the board of directors and the committee to allow you to obtain necessary information, ask questions, and so on and so forth. So the audit charter in the right hand side, see what it is, what it includes. May include information system audit as an audit support function. The audit charter should clearly state management responsibility and objectives for and delegation of authority to the information system audit function. And the audit charter is an overarching document that covers the entire scope of audit activities. Remember this. It includes, it may include IS audit as an audit support function. It should clearly state management responsibility and objectives and delegation of authority. And it is the document which covers the whole of the scope of the audit activity. Right. So I believe you have seen this. So this is an example for an audit charter. So this I have grabbed from the document of the Institute of Internal Auditors. So what you can see here, basically, this gives a clear picture. You can see, so there are multiple layers of audits, right? So I think someone was asking about SLUAS and so on and so forth. So SLUAS may be part of the second line defense or the third line defense, right? And you can see, so you first line defense, management controls, you will look into internal control measures and all of these things, and your scope defined into that area, and you might be reporting to the senior management and CEO. Then when it comes to the second line defense, there will be a different sets of people doing audits for financial control, security, risk management, audit, control, quality, inspection, compliance. There can be different set of audit teams who would involve in this. And again, it will report to the senior management and CEO. But internal audit, have you ever seen? I mean, if you look into the organizational hierarchies of, say, public listed companies, you would have noticed internal auditor or the chief internal auditor usually reports to the board of directors. They are not, I mean, they have a dotted line reporting to the CEO, but they are mainly reporting to the board of directors or maybe the audit committee of that particular organization. They are that powerful. That's why I said it's very important to maintain your credibility and due diligence, due care, right? As a person, you have to be very prompt when it comes to this. So if you have these three lines of defense, then you don't have to worry about whether there is an external audit, maybe from one of your customers or maybe one of your vendors. There is an external audit comes into the picture and they want to kind of audit the organization before giving a bigger business or something like that, or maybe regulators. What kind of regulators? Even in context of finance, internal revenue department, IRD, would come and check. Or maybe if you are part of the investment brought into the country, BOI may come and audit. Or maybe if you are a government organization, the Auditor General's office has the authority. They will come and do external audit. So likewise. So there can be a lot of things happening, right? So that's why audit charter is important. So you can see here in this particular case, there are multiple audit charters as well. So there can be audit charter for the first line defense, second line defense, and the third line defense. These charters includes the authority levels, and the um, uh, scope of the audit, and so on and so forth. So all of that is included, right? I think that's more about charter. So that's important. You understand that what it is, and kind of see it's about only three things: authority, responsibility, approved by top management, and it is a static document. Okay. Next is IT audit resource management. So when it comes to information systems audit function, it should be managed in a manner which ensures the diverse tasks performed by the audit team. This is why I said there are multiple test types, there are multiple skills you are required, and there is an audit charter which talks about, okay, what is the scope of the audit and all that. So whatever you do, the key is you have to make sure you preserve the independence of the audit, and whomever who is part of the audit team should have sufficient competency to conduct the audit. So that's why I was saying you are not the one to conduct every part of the audit. It's your responsibility as the information systems auditor to bring in necessary skills into the picture. This bringing necessary parties. If there's a third party requirement, you must plan, and you have to cost for it, and there is a cost of that, all of these things. So you have to make sure that you get this competent people into the picture at the time of planning for fieldwork and the documentation. And the second thing is auditor must maintain their competency through updates of existing skills and obtain training on new audit techniques and technological areas. So continuous learning is a must. Remember that. And skills and knowledge should be taken into consideration when planning audits and assigning staff to specific audit assignments. So this is what I was telling multiple times repeatedly. Skills and knowledge should be taken into consideration when planning audits and assigning staff to specific audit assessments. If you have a maybe a Active Directory audit or email system or email server audit, if you want to conduct a vulnerability assessment, if you want to really conduct a penetration test, maybe if you want someone to look into the regulatory related aspects and so on and so forth, you have to bring the competent parties. So that's very important. And a detailed staff training plan should be drawn up for the year based on the organization's direction in terms of technology and related risks that needs to be addressed, and it should be reviewed periodically. So if you are to do audits, so you have to have a plan, right? So I told you this is a cycle. So you have to go around the cycle and kind of make sure that you are there, you are conducting it accordingly. Okay. Right. So I just talked about something. I just talked about that using services of other auditors and experts, right? So can we do it on our what do you call on our leisure, or maybe on our convenience? No, right? So basically, when you are looking into obtaining services of other auditors and experts, you will have to look into different areas. This is what they're talking about. So read about this. When a part of all information system audit services are proposed to be outsourced to another audit or external service provider, the following should be considered regarding using the services of other auditors and experts. Number one, restrictions on outsourcing of audit security services provided by law and the regulations. So that is on the top. Laws and the regulations. You have to consider laws and regulations. Audit charter or contractual stipulations. So you know that audit charter includes what and who approves it. So you have to make sure whether you are allowed to do so according to audit charter. Impact on overall and specific information system audit objectives. Impact on information systems audit risk and professional liability. Independence and objectivity of other auditors and experts. I just talked about in certain countries, PwC is banned, certain countries, EY is banned, certain countries, KPMG is banned. So all of these things happen because when you lack the independence or lack the objectivity of the auditors and experts. And then professional competence, qualification, and experience. Scope and approach of work to be outsourced, supervisory and audit management controls, method or modalities of communication or results of audit work. So there are a lot of things that you have to think of. And upon all of these things, you have to think of the cost as well. So you can't simply, for your convenience, you are going to outsource this as well. You have to have rightful justification for you to obtain those services and expertise from outsourced parties. So it is possible. You don't need to know everything, but if you plan right, if you justify right, you can get the right skills and experts, and you can conduct a proper audit. Right. So, and there's additional things as well. So it is responsibility of IS auditor or entire entity employing the services of external service provider to do the following. See what you must do before you. Now you have the plan, you have the cost approved, and this is what you have to do. Clearly communicate the audit objective, scope, and methodology through a formal engagement letter. That's a must when you get the audit party, other third party involved. Establish a monitoring process for regular review of the work of the external service provider. This is very important because in my experience, certain audits sometimes takes years. They will say, okay, no, there is certain things pending, so we are working on it, working on it, working on it. It might not work sometimes. So you have to be very careful about it. You have to make sure you monitor the process and review regularly. That's where, okay, I think someone was asking about IT project management. Actually, since this is audit, we do discuss about audit project management. So during that time, we will discuss, okay, how we are going to keep tabs of external service providers as well. Assess the usefulness and appropriateness of reports and external providers, and assess the impact of significant findings on the overall audit objectives. So that means, okay, you also have to have some understanding. You have to read all of these things before you come to conclusions. So it's very important. So you have to have some understanding to assess the usefulness and appropriateness of these reports, which is coming out of these third-party service providers. Okay, quick activity. Take about 2-3 minutes, read this, and individually think about these things. So I will read it once. So just imagine an internal audit department is planning its information systems audits based on the approved audit plan. Okay, see the keywords. Internal audit department is planning its internal audit based on approved audit plan. As the chief audit executive, you are responsible for staffing the planned audit. So same thing that we were looking at, what we were discussing. Okay, think about these 3 questions. 1, think through the steps you would take to plan to meet the capacity and the budget restraints. How would you factor in training consideration, cost, and timing for information system audit resources? In what instances would you consider using the help of outside expert? Okay, take 5 minutes and think about it. And preferably raise your hands if you don't think about it, or maybe you have no idea what it is, what you're going to do. Either of them would be fine. Okay. Anyone thought about the first question? Think through the steps you would take to plan to meet capacity and budget restraints. Okay, so I will give you a kind of answer, right? So if I am to do internal auditing, so I might first consider similar audits performed in the past. Why? Because if I'm to plan for capacity and budget, okay, I must have some understanding of previous audits, right? So if consider if this is the first ever audit to happen, then I would what would be the option that I must have? So I might have to kind of rely on a couple of my friends, right? I might go back and see whether I have someone who have done a similar scope of project or similar audit, similar type of audit. So then I might ask some questions. How much time did they require? What was the cost incurred? And how many people were used? And were there any improvements you could factor into this new audit? So I might ask those questions from one of my friends who had similar experience, or maybe I might looked into previous documents and see, and I may have asked the previous person who have done the audit, or maybe some if I'm part of the team, so I might ask the team members, okay, what you have done, and so on and so forth, right? So number one is that consider similar audits performed in the past. Okay, what else? What are other steps? Formulating a detailed project plan for the upcoming audit engagement, considering factors like reporting deadlines, stakeholder availability, and holidays. So, second is you have to look into building a project plan. What would be the third? Budgeting time and costs associated with each audit project. So, why is that? Because ultimately you will have to present this to a board of directors or maybe senior management and get the approvals, right? So you have to very importantly give some timelines and costs associated, and then identify gaps in skill sets from the plan and identify external experts and related costs. So you have to identify if there are certain components in the scope that we have planned, in the plan that we have created, the audit plan, and if we require external support, third party auditors, or maybe outsourced vendors, so I might have to look into that, right? And finally, the finalizing plans by engaging all applicable resources and agreeing on final project plan. So this becomes what? This becomes audit charter, of course. Right. Question number two. How do you factor in training consideration, cost and timing for information system audit resources? Anyone who can answer that? What is your opinion? Okay. If you look from a different angle, why do we really have to do this? Training, consideration, cost, and timing for IS audit resources. It's because you have to make sure the audit is cost effective. So rather you go for external auditors or external vendors, if you can conduct the same internally, that would be cost effective, right? So that's number one. So if we are to conduct an audit or maybe a continual audit, or maybe annual or quarterly or annual audit and so on and so forth. So it's matter of fact, you looked into training consideration, cost and timing, where you would get your team ready or your team prepared for this activity, right? So that's why you have you have to factor in all of these things. So how are we going to do that? So basically now you already have in the first question we talked about how to kind of factor in all of these things and identify the budget and all of that. So then you have to consider similar approach using your internal team, and by putting up certain filling the gaps and kind of identify the areas and so on and so forth, and then go with the internal team and show a return of investment to your management. So that's how you have to do it. And third one, in what instances would you consider using the help of outside experts? Okay, that's a very good question, right? Because if I take you as example, because you are more of management students, and your core is not technology. So what would you do? Why would you bring outside experts? I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you that you're thinking about this. Yes, of course. So why mainly the primary factor to consider outside expert is the uh, when you have a doubt, or when you have considerations about whether the internal team has appropriate skill sets to perform the scoped audit. So that's where you will want to. Yes, of course, there's an answer from Jayakodi, yes. So get diversified knowledge. Of course, diversified knowledge is important, but whether that diversified knowledge is required for this particular project, or this particular scope, or maybe this particular audit charter, is up for discussion, right? So more than diversified understanding, diversified knowledge, you have to make sure your internal team is, if the internal team is not capable enough to conduct the training, you must consider bringing in outside help, right? Okay, thank you very much for whomever who have answered. So that's very good. So let's continue this. So you can think of these things. So there will be different activities in all of the areas that we are going to discuss. So this kind of similar kind of questions will be there. This is for you to think, right? This is I mean, just take some time, read the question, read the scenario, and kind of try to answer it by yourself. Then you will start thinking about it. So I mean, I was very recently talking to a couple of my colleagues, one of them who has about 13 years of experience in banking. Other one was from government sector, so he was a director IT at a particular government ministry. And the third one is more of expert in quality assurance. All three of them, just I mean, basically not that ones, but they were in a almost similar time period. They were talking to me about Lakman. It's like this. So I really want to kind of change my domain. So I have done a lot of QA. It's more of like there are a lot of activities. I'm more of a QA කෙල පැමිණිලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක හින්දා කෙලවෙන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා වෙන මොකක් හරි හොයාගන්න ඕනේ. That kind of a mentality, because now with the generative AI and all of these things, now things are kind of uh, uh, getting deviated into different areas. Like, so if you are not skilled enough, I mean, uh, that was a question, right? So whether AI will uh, kind of take over human jobs, they will, of the personnel who are average in what they are doing, right? So if you are to kind of jump into the next level, you have to think and understand furthermore things. So all of those three people, one being banker, other one from government in the government sector, even being a director, and the third one being a quality assurance, more of a lead in quality assurance. All of the three of them has nearly 10 plus years of experience. So all of them are now considering, or maybe worried about, okay, whether the knowledge that they have is sufficient or not, right? So they were asking me questions about, okay, I mean, what do you think? Okay, what kind of other, we were doing more of a brainstorming, and they were asking me, okay, what do you think? What we should do? My first this thing was, okay, why don't you do CISA? Okay, they were like, okay, what is CISA? CISA is Certified Information System. Sorry, so why are you asking? Why are you telling us to do that? Basically, me to do that. So all three of them, they asked the same questions. Um, I said it's like this. I did CISA about 15 years back, and there were a lot of questions, and I had a lot of questions. At the same time, I explored. When there was a question, I started asking questions from my superiors, my colleagues, and started reading about it. And there were a lot of answers. And ultimately, because I mean, there are external experts as well, right? So that's why we are allowed to kind of bring in third-party suppliers, basically vendors or auditors into the picture. So it's all about asking questions. See, it's all about being curious. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying. So, when I present the activity, I mean, even though you don't answer in the chat or you are not putting anything in, still start think about it on your own. Then you will realize there is something to think about. Okay. The next part of this is again, we were talking about these types of audits, assessments, and reviews. So let's quickly go through this, right? Okay. So examples, audit, assessments, and reviews. So what kind of audits are there? So there are information systems audit, there are compliance audits, there are financial audits, there are operational audits, integrated audits, and administrative audits. What else? Okay, in the right-hand side, you can see there are specialized audits, there are computer forensics audits, there are functional audits, there are readiness assessments. So there are different type of audits, different scopes, different areas. Those require different understandings, knowledge, different type of people, different scopes, all of that, right? So combinations of it. So that's why I was saying, so you have to think. So, I mean, if you are reluctant to make your brain work, better, I mean, I might say you're not employed yet, right? So, I mean, if it is my team, I would have told them, okay, if you are reluctant to think and if you're reluctant to make your brain work, okay, better find a different job. Anyway, as I indicated with the generative AI and all of that, so I mean, these kind of people will be anyway replaced with the technology, right? So uh, if I have a team of set of people who are just looking at documentation, okay, they would have already got fired, right? Or maybe they have be being offered different other jobs. Why? Now you don't need anyone to do documentation. You have Gen AI, you have open AI, open ChatGPT, you have co-pilot. You simply when you say, okay, this is what I need to do, okay, this is the report, this Excel sheet contains all the information, build me a report or a presentation, okay, within couple of seconds you will end up with that presentation, right? Have you ever experienced that happens? I believe neither of you, not yet. But I mean, being a person who are involved with universities and all of that, I hear a lot of speculations about that students using ChatGPT and all of these things, and uh, kind of putting up their assessments and their reports, their theses, and all of these things, right? So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, those things are future. Those things are of past, right? So if I'm to write 3,000 words, okay, am I to be worried about it? No. Okay, you simply ask the ChatGPT to do so. It will do, right? So that's why it's important. Okay, let's move to the next one. Control self-assessment. So what does IS auditor do? Right hand side. What does IS auditor do? So number one, they act as a facilitator to business process owners to help them define the and assess appropriate controls. So remember the word facilitator. So IS auditor is a facilitator. Second one, helps process owners understand need of controls based on the risk to business process. So he helps, he facilitates, he helps. And third, work with process owners to evaluate performance of controls against established control objectives. They work with process owners. So IS auditor is more of, I mean, when it comes to auditors, there is a misconception in the holistic industry or even government. We always hate auditors. Why? We always thinks that they come to find faults. When it comes to auditors, we think that they come to find faults. But what really is the job of the auditor is not to find faults. They are to facilitate and help and work with process owners to understand the organization. Remember that. Okay, so when it comes to this control self-assessment programs objectives, so basically what we are looking at is planning, implementation, and monitoring, right? So so what is our role? What is the IS auditor's role in CSA? So number one, IS auditor must understand the business process being assessed to be effective facilitators and innovators. IS auditors lead and guide auditees to assessing their environment by providing insights on control objectives. They act IS auditors act as the facilitator with the management client acting as the participant. IS auditor with management focus on the improving productivity, IS auditors are better positioned to explain risks. So, what are the keywords? IS auditors must understand the business and effective facilitate and innovate. Facilitate and innovate. IS auditors lead guide auditees to assessing the environment. Lead and guide auditees. So that means you are not there to find faults, right? You are there to lead and guide. And again, so you are to facilitate the management of the client, being a participant and kind of take them through this. At the same time, okay, with management focus on providing productivity, IS auditors are better positioned to explain risks. So why most of the time people mostly management may not listen to internal teams because they might not uh, what do you call believe in their internal teams. But when it comes to IS auditors, their main job is to make sure the management understands the risks. So that's very important. Okay, so elements of integrated auditing. So what includes bringing in everything together? So identification of risk faced by the organization for the areas being audited, identification of relevant key controls, review and understanding designs of key controls, testing the key controls that are supported by IT systems, and testing that management controls operate effectively. All of these things we were just talking about for last almost 1.5, 2 hours, right? So yes, almost 1.5 hours, no, more than that, about 2.5 hours, we were talking about all of these things. Now, it's more of like I'm summarizing all of these. Okay, so I think since it's almost 8 o'clock, I would leave this with you. So I will share this slide deck with you all to think of this. So we will discuss this case study towards, I mean, first half of the next week's session. So I will kind of read it and kind of give you a little bit of understanding what are supposed to do. So this case study is about Alpha Corp, which is a multinational enterprise with diverse operations ranging from manufacturing to online sales. The enterprise is encountering several challenges, and management is seeking assistance in identifying the most appropriate types of audits to address specific issues. Your task as the information systems auditor is to determine which type of audit is needed for each situation. Okay, so there are four type of scenarios given. So your duty is to understand what type of audit. So remember what we're talking here? Here, different type of audits. IS, compliance, financial, operational, integrated, administrative, specialized, computer forensics, functional, read assessments. Sorry, readiness assessments, right? So different types of audits are there, right? So your duty is to read these four sentences, and answer is also very simple. What you have to do is, for each sentence, you have to identify what type of audit that needs to be uh, done. So okay, I think it will be easy if I put numbers here. Let me. Okay, right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are four scenarios. Okay, we have about 10 minutes. And let me take a copy of this and put it underneath. That way. Okay, I would like you all to kind of go through this and give me some answers. You can just put the number and indicate which type of audit needs to be conducted for each one of these scenarios. So for your assistance, I'm just putting all of these examples of types of audits. Since we have 10 minutes, let's try. Just put whether it's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and whether it's information system, financial, and so on and so forth. So let's do this very quickly. 10 minutes. I'll give you examples. So I mean, this is not the right answer. So what I'm expecting is something like this. 1, IS, 2 is financial, 3 integrated, 4 specialized. Something like this. What I'm expecting is you to put me something like this. Okay. Scenario 1, what type of audit? Scenario 2, what type of audit? Scenario 3, what type of audit? Scenario 4, what type of audits? Okay, you can see your friends' answers. So if you are agreeing, just you can simply put thumbs up there. Else, put your answer. I can see Jatri's answer here. Keshika is also thinks that Jatri is correct. Okay, okay, almost similar and same answer. How about others? I must say both of you. So out of these four, three are correct. One is incorrect. So just think which one. Okay, so particularly the second, third, and fourth answers are correct of both of yours. So, what is incorrect is the first one. So, just read through it. So, basically, senior leadership has concern about the security ever since the prior fiscal year when there was a series of instances of unauthorized access to sensitive data across the enterprise network infrastructure. So, they are concerned about series of unauthorized access to sensitive data across the enterprise network infrastructure. And second line, they says a substantial cost was incurred leveraging a forensic investigator. What? Already engaged a forensic investigator and they have spent a substantial cost for that particular scenario. So in such instances, okay, where do we find similar people brought in? It's basically as a part of information systems audit, right? So basically, they have a lot of questions. The financial, so basically forensic investigation or the forensics audit will only talks about whether that particular system has any fault where it allow the unauthorized access. But in this particular scenario, what they have observed is that there was a series of instances of unauthorized access to sensitive data across the enterprise network infrastructure. So this might happen because of different other reasons. Maybe the access granted incorrectly. Maybe there are certain people who would give an unnecessary access, or maybe there are people who have not used multi-factor authentication or something like that. So since you have already have a forensic investigation done, ideally you must do a information systems audit covering this concern. The scope of the information systems audit should have been around the credentials management and unauthorized access. So then you can leverage on whatever the forensics report that you already have in hand to identify other areas to conduct the audit and identify your observations. Okay, very good. I believe this forensic investigator part has triggered due to kind of say computer forensics. But other things are correct. Financial, second one is financial, third one is operational, and fourth one is compliance. Right, nice. Okay, so I think it's time for the day. So if you have any questions, so I will share my contacts. I believe you might have my details in the LMS, but let me share my contacts here as well. So you can simply write to me to my personal email address. Okay, I just sent it. So basically, if you have anything, any questions, any feedback, any comments, anything that you want to kind of look into, you can simply write to me. I can share my mobile number if required as well, but let's keep it for the next day. But for the moment, if you have any questions, write to me. And if there are any comments on how I conducted the session today, and if you want more information, or maybe I'm too fast or too slow, or we must cover more content during these 3 hours, or kind of, if you have any comments, just push it. So I'm happy to kind of respond or maybe adhere to how it works. So thank you very much, everyone, and good night, and see you next week.